So this video is going to kind of function like a joke in that you'll get it and it'll be funny, or you won't and it won't be. It's kind of simple as that. And what we're going to talk about is a very lighthearted subject, which is kind of this idea that maybe there's not really freedom in this world of duality, or the freedom in which most people attach the idea of freedom or attach the experience of freedom to, and perhaps doing that isn't really the appropriate context. So typically what happens is there's a belief or a belief system, and then someone believes that this will give them freedom, or that because they do this or they don't do that, that it means, oh, well, I'm free, or I'm different, or I'm independent, or I'm creative, or fill in the blank with some type of adjective or adverb. And really, if we zoom out a little bit, we can see that actually most of the time these beliefs are not really different at all. They're actually kind of the same. And what I mean by that is, if we look at really any belief, believe in this, believe in that, you believe in God or you don't, whatever, we have this, we'll just call it X, the variable of X, which you could fill in the blank with any type of belief or ideology or whatever. So then from there we have, well, we can affirm it and believe in it, or we can deny it and not believe in it. And most people think, oh, well, that's different. You know, oh, well, I'm an atheist, so I'm different or somehow smarter or superior than people who believe. Or I'm a believer, so I'm different or superior, or I'm saved, or I'm holy, or whatever, than people who don't believe. And if we look at human history, this is mostly what's happened on the planet. We look at wars, we look at so many events of human history, we look at psychological drivers, we look at so many things in the present moment and in the past. It pretty much boils down to that conversation. And people being bamboozled and fooled into thinking that they're actually different. Because really, when you affirm something, you're actually at the same time kind of denying it. And when you're denying it, you're actually at the same time affirming it. And what most people don't realize is that maybe that is the case. And then there's also obviously the third option, which is maybe you're unsure, you know, maybe you don't know. And even if we really break that down, that is also just basically affirming and denying kind of at the same time. So what I mean by that is, if you are basically, if you're affirming something, you're believing in it, in some way you're kind of denying it at the same time, because if you really knew something, if you're really sure about something, then perhaps you really wouldn't have to believe in it or affirm it. You would just do, you would just act. It would just sort of be, you'd kind of be over it in a lot of ways. It's kind of like things in the physical body don't really come into our awareness unless there's something wrong with them. Meaning most of the time you don't notice your eyes unless you can't see or you have to wear glasses or contacts. You don't notice your hearing unless something goes wrong and you get tinnitus or hearing loss or something like that. And you don't really worry about these things. You say, oh, are you hungry? Okay, I'm hungry, I'm gonna go eat. You don't need to believe it. You don't need to affirm it. You don't need to do anything. You just say, oh, this is it. Boom, done. And that sounds really simple, but if you look at how most people live, it's with this thing called anxiety, where, oh, well, am I really hungry? Well, I don't know. Maybe I'm not really hungry. Well, if I'm hungry, what am I craving? What is the nutrient that I'm craving? What should I eat? Oh, I shouldn't eat this, I shouldn't eat that, It's this whole conversation, and maybe that's what we call anxiety. So getting back to our point, if we really know something, then we don't necessarily really feel the need to affirm it. Meaning, if you know that you're a millionaire, if you know that you're wealthy, or you know that you have massive abundance, you really need to go around and flaunt it. You know, if you're Michael Jordan and you've won, you know, however many championship rings, do you really need to believe it? Do you really need to affirm it? No, because that it just is. It's kind of reality, and you're kind of over it. Kind of like you don't need to believe in riding a bike. You just either go do it or you don't. It's pretty simple, pretty straightforward. So really, in that way, if we're really having to affirm something, think, oh, I believe this and I'm into this and that, at the same time, we're kind of denying it at the same moment. And then the other side people go to is, oh, well, I don't believe in that. That's dumb. That's stupid. People that believe in that are stupid. And really, that is basically affirming whatever it is that we're trying to deny. Because by acknowledging it, by denying it, we're affirming that it's actually valid, that it's actually worthy of analysis and thought and this and that. And we're acknowledging that all of these people actually believe it and are affirming it, but we ourselves are choosing to deny it. So in that way, our quote-unquote denial or our quote not believing is actually an affirmation of the validity of the belief system, especially when it becomes emotionally charged or heated or anchored in some way. And that's also another massive indication that, maybe there's an issue there. Because if there wasn't an issue there and it wasn't a big deal, it wouldn't be charged, there wouldn't be any weight to it, and there wouldn't necessarily be any polarity there. It would just kind of be over it. And then for the middle thing, which is, oh, well, I'm unsure, or I'm on the fence, or I'm in the middle, whatever. Really, so it's kind of like, if it was really correct, then we would know, but it probably isn't, so we don't. Because if you think about it, most things that you're really into, you don't really need to be unsure about it. You kind of just know most of the time. It's like, do you have to go to the bathroom? Yes or no? You don't have to say, I don't know. Think about that for a little bit, you know? Or like, do you love this person? I don't know, let me think about it. And if you have to think about it, it means you probably don't, which means it's kind of simultaneously an affirmation and denial at the same time. If you don't know what that means, just rewind and listen to what we meant by affirming is denying and denying is affirming at the same time. So within those three perspectives, we can throw on any type of belief system, any type of ideology or paradigm that really people are clinging to and are obsessed with, and it's pretty much going to fit into that basic spectrum or that basic gradient. So when we really zoom in and get myopic and really short-sighted in our perspective, we think, oh, I'm so different. I'm so X, Y, or Z because of I believe this or I don't believe that. But really when we zoom out, it's actually like, it's really not that different, actually. It's pretty much this, and then we have the spectrum. Already on the spectrum, cool, but you're still on the spectrum, so you're still actually limited within that box. So it's not necessarily really freedom, because freedom in kind of the American way is, oh, you're free, but do you want McDonald's or Burger King or Wendy's or Arby's? They're not really that different, actually, when you really think about it. So it's not necessarily really freedom. Maybe we should examine what the word freedom actually means. Because if you have to obsess about affirming or denying, that's not really freedom. It's not really even tying into the definition of the word freedom. So then there's the next section we could go to, which is one step zooming out, which is whatever the belief is, you can see the validity and the inaccuracy of affirming it. You can see the validity and the inaccuracy of denying it. You can see it for being in the middle or on the fence. So then you have kind of an even more zoomed out view to where you can see the whole spectrum. And then your belief is no longer limited to just the gradient, but your belief becomes the entire gradient because you can see all of it. You can see where, when, and how, and who, when, where, and why it may or may not be useful or effective. And then another level to that would be what we might call resolution, or having something be resolved, or something being sort of joined together, which we talk about a mystical or religious experience, which we look at the definition of those words. It basically is taking two things and binding them together again. But we'll leave that for a different conversation. So we look at the word resolution, or to resolve. Well, the word resolution, so like to basically do again, and then solution. Well, what is a solution? It's basically when something is dissolved in water. Think about, you take salt or you take dirt or something, you put it in water, shake it up, and then it sort of becomes this solution. So we have a resolution of something becoming more fluid and liquid and joined and fluid together again, rather than being separate or jagged. which we think about the feeling states associated with being trapped in sort of the dualistic affirming or denying, it's often very jagged. It's often not very fluid, because dogma is not necessarily fluid. Fluid implies movement. Fluid implies adaptation and transformation. Dogma or hardcore beliefs or paradigms are typically fixed and static, and they are what they are, and they're not necessarily going to change. Or they might just flip from one end of the spectrum to the other, one end of the spectrum to the other, and that's the hamster on the wheel, so to speak. So then if the whole thing is, well, so many people are trying to find freedom or independence or being different or individual, maybe in the wrong place. Maybe by thinking, oh, well, I grew up in a religious environment, so now I'm going to be anti-religious, and now I'm different. I'm independent. I'm so different than everyone else. Not really. It's just kind of reactionary. It's still giving validity and energy and charge and weight to whatever this thing is. So it's not necessarily really freedom in any way, shape, or form, which is also kind of this thing which we might want to look at as, oftentimes people are interested in, consciousness or meditation or spirituality or new aginess or psychedelic drugs or any of these type of things. It doesn't necessarily mean they're interested in freedom. It doesn't necessarily mean they experience freedom. What it might be is, oh, well, this ideology and this paradigm and this prison that I'm living in, I don't really like it anymore, so I think I just want to replace it with another one. So I grew up in Christianity, and that was my religion, but now I'm going to have maybe yoga as my religion, or maybe I'm going to be vegetarian. That's going to be my religion. That's going to be who I am and what I identify with. But maybe that's all very fixed and very static and not necessarily fluid. I don't know. Kind of just depends on what we want, what is important to us, and whatever we're able to perceive in the moment. So then the question is, well, where can freedom be found? I don't know. That's part of the joy of being an adult, is asking ourselves questions and paying attention to experience and seeing what happens and seeing what we may or may not learn. Because so often we think that a thing is actually a thing, meaning we have an ideology or an object or astrology or something, and we think it's this independent, external thing. But maybe it is actually more so a reflection of our nervous system. So maybe we forget that. So then perhaps there's a process of attaching things and putting those things in places where perhaps maybe it's not that appropriate or functional or effective or harmonious or efficient. I don't know. It's part of being an adult, I guess, is just figuring these things out. Anyways, hopefully you enjoyed this video. Hopefully it was funny and it made sense, because it's fucking hilarious to me. It's the type of stuff that I entertain myself with and make myself laugh about a lot. So hopefully you enjoyed it and it was entertaining. Or maybe it was super boring and you're upset. I don't know. It's up to you. Anyways, thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you soon.